Test, test. Hello, chat. How's it going? We'll get started here momentarily. We're just waiting for a couple more people to swing by. We'll be starting. Big news. Big news. Lots of stuff going on. We have a new setup I'm going to try out. It's going to look scuffed. It's going to be hilarious. We're going to have a good time. Hopefully I'm coming in well. Yes, Lizzie Babs, it is live news. Ricky Kings, hello. Matt K1812, hello. John Sarkis, hello. Good to see everyone. Hopefully I'm coming in well. I think it's time. I think it's time to reveal. Hold on. I'll see if I break anything. We're going to go here. All right. Welcome to the news studio. Let me get the news theme. Go. Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of Turtle Wow News. I'm your news anchor orc, Vrograg Fishslayer, here to give you all the news for the Turtle Wow server on January 30th, 2024. I am broadcasting to you from a first-of-a-kind... Well, I mean, you know I have this nifty little magenta screen that I've been using for some time, and I'm happy to be using it again. Behind me is just an image, which I'm sure all of you can understand. We have the news desk here in front of me. Very excited about that. And I have some small amount of news slides prepared for everyone. We're going to first cover the news from last week. We're going to cover some of the big events. And then we're going to go into Market Watch. Then we'll do a changelog roundup. And then we'll be delving into some breaking news because it literally broke like 5 minutes ago. So let's get to it. I'm the orc, and here's the news. First up, everyone knows the Lunar Festival's here. Yay! Lunar Festival's fun. There's lots of quests available for everyone to pick up if they'd like to. It makes druids a little bit of a mage for a limited amount of time. There's fun T-Mogs to get, lots of quests. If you haven't seen the quest givers, you're probably not looking hard. You'll see them all over the place. You'll see these nice white beams of light casting down on the elders. These are quest givers that will give you little coins. You can use them as turn-ins to get fun quest rewards and celebrate the Lunar Festival. So make sure to go out there, check it out, and have some fun with the Lunar Festival. Next up in announcements, we have the Transmogrification Contest, the Catwalk Clash. This is being run by the team, not by myself. They are allowing people to submit their transmog looks and submit them on Twitter and Reddit, and the ones that get the most, I suppose, likes or thumbs up, if it's I think it's upvotes for Reddit, and then it would just be hearts for Twitter /X, whatever they're calling it nowadays. If you use either one of those, they will take that into account. Make sure to get your best looks in now, because I believe the contest will be ending February 2nd. I'd love to see all your stuff. It gives me more inspiration to maybe one day do another little bit of a transmog competition in the server. So, next news item we have up. Yes, there has been some login issues. I'm sure everyone's noticed it to some extent. Just last night, I myself was raiding with my guild in Blackwing Lair. We had some server instability. There was even points and times when the marks wouldn't go out. There's been some scuttlebutt talking about what exactly is going on. I haven't gotten any definite answers. Some people saying it's DDoSes. But for right now, what you need to know is that apparently, according to some people I've read and understood, you just need to keep trying logging in. 2 or 3 times will work if you're having issues. I've seen the problem and can attest that if I didn't log in for whatever reason, if I try 2 or 3 more times, it should work. Also, earlier this week, we also had notice from Akalix that our network is currently under attack. A little scary for some, but anyone who's a longtime veteran of Turtle WoW knows that this periodically happens, and it's really ultimately not that big of a deal. Generally, the team is very competent and proficient with handling these sort of situations. Also, it should be noted that there was another announcement saying that people should guard and or change their passwords because there was a large password leak in recent past. So if you played on any other private server and you reuse any of your credentials, just take the quick step, go ahead and set up yourself a new username and not a new username, just a new password should do plenty. Because a lot of times people that lose their account, it's from hackers, and that's no fun for anyone. All right, that's what I had prepared. It's not much, just for the top of the news hour here. Next up, I'd like to go over to marketwatch, which I have right here. Boom. Check that out. You love to see it. Let me go actually change to the marketwatch scene. I also need to change the music. Okay. And then I go to here. All right. Now we're into the proper marketwatch. And you don't need to see this color wheel. There it is. Sorry, I had some problems uploading the images. Okay, first up, we're going to start off with the stock market according to what's going on over in Telebim. Excuse me, I need some water there. First, we're starting with the SNV for the Alliance. This is just the SNV, not the SNV 200. Don't get them mixed up. I know it's easy, but the SNV is a lot fewer items, but they're the most hotly demanded. We can see here there's a little bit of growth as of recently. Going to the next slide, which would require me to click the right button. There it is. Okay. After that, we have the SNV 200. Again, we see some steady growth. There was a big spike, looks like right around January 5th, but there continues to be some steady growth, though quite recently there does seem to be a little bit of a drop-off. As far as the herbalism on Telebim Alliance, looks like there was a big spike around the 16th, probably concurrent with the announcement for Phase 2. Here we can see there's a big drop-off in mining for Alliance, though. Not quite sure what's causing that. Could really be anything. I did look into market data. I mean, obviously some things are lowering in price, but why they're lowering in price is hard to say. Over on the Horde side, for some reason I started with the SNV 200 on Horde, but we can see it's been pretty steady. There's a little bit of growth, some ups and downs. On the SNV, the regular SNV, it does look like prices have been dropping. This is usually a reflection of there being really no inflation at all over there, so that's good to see. On the Horde side for the month-long herbalism, it's just continued to grow. I've definitely received reports about them doing a lot of raiding on Horde side, so this does seem congruent with that claim. Mining, though, has been all over the place for Horde, ups and downs. I'm not sure what they're making. Maybe they're making a bunch of Thunder Furies, maybe they're making a bunch of bombs. I can't quite say. But speaking of bombs, we'll see here, this is for the Alliance, because it's first. For the Alliance, you can see, as of recently, like last couple days, sappers have exploded in price. What's that? Nearly 150% up in the last, what's that? Maybe less than a week, which I find quite interesting. Over here, we can see another big boost as well with Goblin Sapper charges for the Horde side. So my guess here is that more world PvP is happening and raids that want sappers, because sappers aren't very useful in Molten Core. Also, sappers can be used in Emerald Sanctum, which was recently opened. So this is nice to see. It means there's more world PvP going on. It means there's some more raiding going on. Moving on to Nordinar. This is the month-long SNV 200. I really couldn't tell you why there's this huge drop in price. I don't know. It looks really drastic, but really this is just a fluctuation of about up and down, maybe 10-15%. So it's not that drastic. Over on the regular SNV, now this is, remember, Cured Rugged Hide, Arcane Crystal, Black Lotus, Grom's Blood, Mooncloth, and Large Brilliant Shards. It has been steady, reliable growth for the last month. And, you know, I think a lot of people know why. The herbs have been kind of out of control. Look at that. You can look at that. SNV, the SNV 32 and the 32 herbalism, they kind of match. There's no mystery that herbs have been going up in price. And I think we'll be talking about that a little later with some late breaking news. Just taking a look at mining just because I was curious. It looks like it's just been pretty normal. There is some volatility in the market, but nothing too out of the ordinary here. Taking a look at Black Lotus, as expected, we've had a lot of growth recently, even though you can still get Black Lotuses off of herbalism procs. So the continued growth is a bit of an anomaly, but does show that there's still people interested in raiding. Plague Bloom has continued to go up, but as of recently, and I think my mouse will actually capture, yep, right around here is when the announcement came out about there being Plague Bloom available in Stratholme. The price has been going down. That might mean supply might finally be bursting this bubble, because this price right here, this 2 gold, very abnormal for this particular stock item. Next up, this is the Zandalar Index. I wanted to take a quick look at what's been going on since the fixing of the Barnacle Targe, and it looks like the price is still actually going down, which I find quite incredible, because I thought the Barnacle Targe was a huge way for paladins to get their greedy mitts on everything they could ever want as far as, coins and bijous were concerned. So, seems like the farming's still happening. Let's go back to the news. Go here, and then... Don't worry about that. Okay. So, we have already seen this slide. I did want to quickly cover the changelog. Sorry, I'm still, oops. Gotta light myself. So, let's cover the changelog from last week. This is the January 23rd changelog. The items I've outlined and squared, I meant to say circle, but these are the ones I'll be reading off of. These are the ones that I find most interesting. They corrected an issue where certain totems summoned by mobs were not properly labeled and lacked area of effect immunity. This is a big deal for shamans, as one of their biggest parts of their toolkit is their buffs that come from totems, and it's kind of weird when they get hit by AoE effects. So it's really good to see that. We see the Ornate Bloodstone Dagger is no longer capable of triggering multiple times from area of effect spells. The Ornate Bloodstone Dagger has a very storied history that I would encourage anyone to look into. It does seem like this is a good thing, because otherwise it could be quite broken. So kudos to them on that, although it's a shame because now Ornate Bloodstone Dagger doesn't really have a great use, but I digress. Expert Training Dummy should now be immune to all crowd control effects and avoid relocation. This is just hilarious, because if anyone was looking at the GitHub, there was actual photographic evidence of training dummies running away, because I believe it was Warlock's Death Coil that made the run, which I personally just really, is hilarious. I don't even understand how that works. Oh, I did it again. Dang it. Okay. No, I don't want to say anything. You guys are seeing how the sausage is made. Enjoy. All right. The PvP flag should now properly activate upon landing in a contested zone. This is more of a big deal for those in Telebim. Being in the contested zone is what makes a PvP zone, PvP server a PvP server. So that seems to be working once again. I'm not quite sure what the issue was. I didn't have much time to look into it. The Slime and Naxxramas will now accurately apply a debuff again. For the keen-eyed news viewers among you, you probably noticed about a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, I had posted something in the news ticker down at the bottom to the same extent. I believe this specific note is just that the debuff will actually show up for people, because people were just losing health and didn't see how. So I think this is more of a them speaking to the player to let them know why they're losing health, because it was kind of a shadow ad for a little bit. And last part of the first half of this changelog, they fixed Saffron facing the wrong direction during his engage animation, which I think I've only seen once. It kind of generally just took care of itself, but I will say when you're fighting Saffron and he's facing the wrong way initially, it is quite terrifying. Next up, now this one really needs no introduction. Plague Bloom is now found growing within Stratholme. There's been people that have already mapped it out. Anyone who's curious can take a look around the Discord. I'm sure there's still some maps floating around. It says here specifically they will not respawn, so that's generally what happens with instance content, but this does mean that players can get into raids and do Stratholme, because you can do 10-man Stratholmes and get in there, get Plague Bloom, maybe get some Righteous Orbs, and actually, have a good time. So, there you go. Mysterious anti-RMT botting tweaks have been put into effect. While, of course, this is an area where I can't speak with any authority because I don't have, server backend access. I have been following along with Akalix quite a bit on the anti-botting, anti-RMT effects. I understand there's a number of things that they are doing, and this is congruent with things Akalix has said in the past. So I don't know what it is, but I do know there's been a lot of bans being handed out. So good job, team. Outline. Cleaning cloth has been re-added to Rufus Hardwick's vendor stock in Nessenway's camp. I assume this means people can learn it, but this doesn't say it's fixed, because as I am aware, as of right now, only rogues can access it. Actually, I can show it to you. Right here in the poison crafting. This is the only way you can access it, through the poison crafting menu. I believe fixing it otherwise would require a bigger fix, and maybe that is the case, but that did mean that there were some rogues who weren't quick enough to get it and just couldn't get it. So just be aware that if you are someone that wants a cleaning cloth, which is an item that's going to remove weapon buffs, you still need to be a rogue to use it. As far as I'm aware, I don't see any other fix, so just keep that in mind. Next item is you can no longer hit the battleground spirit guides with traps and other AoE spells. I don't know who discovered this, why they discovered it, but that is hilarious. You will no longer drown if you use your Hearthstone underwater and don't move afterwards. Whoever is the poor soul that found that out the hard way, I salute you. That's pretty hard. But I'm glad someone found out, so others don't have to die. May your memory last. And finally, for this changelog, fixed an exploit that allowed players to reach 100% crit chance by swapping enchanted weapons. I did mention a little bit in the news ticker last week about feral druids being able to play around with sharpening stones to essentially get 100% crit chance, which is, I think we could all agree, a little busted. However, this fixed that issue. I'm still waiting to see if the other shoe dropped and this maybe broke something for druids, because previously druids could not benefit from sharpening stones, period. Then they could because of a fix to help balance the classes. So I'm concerned that this now means feral druids don't get the benefit of it anymore. But I will continue to research this story to keep everyone else appraised. So that is what I had prepared for the news. Just check in with chat. Hi, everyone. Thanks for watching. after I get through this next part, we can do a little, I do have something. Where is it? Where is it? No, not that one. See, I do have a Q&A. We will do a Q&A after, I promise, okay? But for right now, that is not the most pressing concern. I don't need to be in studio mode. There it is. We will get rid of that when I find out where it is. Okay. And I'll make sure I'm on the right page. We are going to start, because there were some big announcements. I'm sure everyone noticed. Maybe people didn't notice, and this is your first time. Big news flash here. Okay, we'll start with this. This is, as you can see, corrected for server time. This was 20 minutes ago this was posted. This is called Consumables and Gold Farming, posted by Akalix. My understanding about this is that the following effects will persist through death in dungeon and raid environments. Keep that in mind, so this won't work in battlegrounds. There is a huge list here. I see scrolls, protection potions, which is kind of weird because you generally don't run around with those. I see blasted land buffs, elixirs, more protection potions. Flasks already lasted through death, so don't know why it was worth mentioning this, but okay. Zanzas, mana regeneration. This is like the Nightfin food, so even food will last through some of the deaths people can incur. This is huge. This means players will need a lot less consumables. This will drive down demand. And if you read the post, exponential growth in the prices of various items, impacted being valuable raiding consumables. So this is the team's clear attempt here to lessen demand, because if I told anyone that, hey, I'm going to have a 2-hour raid in BWL, and you're like, I want to have Mage Bloods, that's great. Now, you don't have to go, oh, wait, what if we wipe? I might need to bring 10. Now, just bring 2. You know you're going to be raiding for 2 hours, just bring 2. And that alone will really help supply. I wish I had future market data. It's going to be wild next week when we finally look at that. But hey, this is great to see. So the title of this post, Consumables and Gold Farming. I know you can't see that, but trust me, it's there. I will read exactly what Akalix wrote. Our goal is not to entirely remove prominent gold farms. There will always be a best farm. However, any farms that are significantly disruptive to the economy as a whole, such as generating an unnatural amount of raw gold or outputting a disproportionate amount of gold for time, are subject to changes. In the coming weeks, that means it's not happened yet, everyone, we will be reflecting further upon how these changes impact the market. After that, we will begin to implement fixes and changes which should address a handful of farms which are in our sights. There's another part here. Excuse me, need more water? While we do not intervene in market manipulation, which, by the way, this has been the position of... I'm sorry, I realize Frogreg's not doing a lot of talking. Hold on. Oh, geez, you don't need to see that. Okay. We're all front and center. While we do not intervene in market manipulation, we do consistently track the markets. This includes looking for the why behind certain items having reduced supply. After some investigation, we found a small number of groups participating in abusive gameplay, which are detailed in our GDKP, TDKP, and Turtle WoW thread, which, as you know, I already have pulled up. Look at that. I'm ready. I'm ready. What a week to try to do an easier news, right? Thanks, Akalix. here on Turtle WoW, we have never allowed RMT. This isn't news. It is also forbidden systems such as GDKP. This isn't news. This might be news to some of you, but GDKP is generally a bad thing. And I also want to highlight just quickly one small thing. Literally, I think it was today or yesterday, Blizzard, or the husk that is Blizzard, actually said on their classic servers they are going to, I believe, ban GDKP as well. It's just interesting. Sorry. Recently, a number of groups have been forming a TDKP, where players will donate items to their group in exchange for gear. This sort of system is not allowed on Turtle WoW, as our rules state. GDKP raids, where group auction, bind on pick it up, or bind on equip items for gold, real money, or similar in-game currencies, including valuable items, may not be created, promoted, or attended. So, now, some people may have never have heard of this. I know, because I only heard of it last week, and I had Akalix talk to me about it a little bit yesterday. A TDKP, it stands for tithe, as in the old Western word for giving a tenth of your money to the church, rather than buying your dragon kill points to get gear. You donate consumables. But if you really think about it for like maybe 3 seconds, you can see that that's just GDKP with a couple extra steps. And those steps have been really making the markets hurt. So, I believe this is a secondary step to help combat market manipulation, at the very least. Although, again, the team doesn't step in. Like, if someone decides to buy out all the light leather in the game, they can do that. But it's then upon the impetus of players to say, okay, I'm not paying for that, I'm going to go get it myself, etc. So that was, these are two huge announcements. I'm really happy that we get to cover them live here on the news. I do want to quickly take a look at this week's changelog as well, since I rarely get to do this the same week. Also, big shouts out to whoever keeps doing these. I love these. I don't know who does. But just putting the big ones right here on a little graphic, that's really cool. Thank you. So this is what the team thinks is big. Fix numerous Naxxramas boss bugs. I don't know what that means. I've read about a really funny one once, but I don't think this is it. Fix all player reported quest text errors. All player reported? I don't even believe that. There's a lot of text player errors. Changed numerous consumables to persist on death, so we covered that. Channeled spells now properly display their animation after being recasted. I don't know about this error, but I have seen some janky animations. It is what it is. And right now, I'm literally looking through this right now with all of you. And Crystal Sword of the Blossom, this is a big deal item, is now properly displayed in sheath. Okay. This is a funny one. Gyro Fleece Ice Reflector should no longer be listed as a trade good in the auction house. I have no idea what it was. Players outside Kel'Thuzad's room, when the encounter starts, will now be teleported inside. Interesting. I didn't know about that one. I don't think anyone's been silly enough to be outside Kel'Thuzad's room, but that's kind of good, because that, I'm sure there's some kind of jank you could do. You can no longer start the Gothic encounter if all players are stacked on the same side. The Gothic encounter. Huh? I'm not sure what this means. Oh, I know. So there's the undead side and live side. So I wonder how that... Oh, okay. I think I can understand. Someone probably cheesed it by figuring out something, because the mobs can walk through the gate. So, Hagen and the Four Horsemen will now evade if pulled out of their rooms. These last changes right here, this seems like someone figured out something and was cheesing bosses pretty hard. I believe it based on last week's revelation about a hunter being able to solo certain bosses in Lower Karazhan. It seems like the exploiters just put it on Turbo Blast, and now their secrets are revealed. Couple more changes here. Your two-handed weapons will not automatically unequip when you right-click. Oh, okay. This is something that, as a shaman, has been mildly annoying for anyone who might experience this. So, your two-handed weapon will now be automatically unequipped when you right-click to equip a shield in your inventory. So, like, I'm a shaman. I have an elemental shaman, right? I pull threat all the time. Like, literally like it's my job. So, what do you think happens? I pull threat. Uh-oh. Time to put on the shield. But I can't do that. I have to put on a main hand weapon, and then I have to put on the shield. This will heighten my survivability quite a bit, and I'm glad they've made this change. Good job, everyone. Good job, Turtle Wow. Hold on. Is this a no, that's a crying one. Where's it? Nope, that's wave. What's clap? Wait, how do I think it cheer? Cheers this one? Nope, that's clap again. Q? Oh, there's cheer. There it is. Okay. All right. Fix the floating Thassalin. I don't know what this means. And did they put channeled spells twice here? Am I crazy? Hold on. Nope, I am crazy. Okay. Change the functionality of consumables. And okay, we've already covered this. All right. So there you go. Some pretty huge announcements. I must admit, I am curious to hear what you guys have to say about this. For all intents and purposes, the news is done right now. Now we're just into chatting. And I would love to hear what the people have to say. I can actually futz around with this a little bit now. I had everything all nice and we'll do that, and let's make myself a little bigger, eh? Woo, I'm bigger. Oh geez. And then we'll move the desk. Thank you everyone for enjoying watching me play Dolly. All right. And we'll get up. We don't need to keep playing that. I'll actually, you know what I'll do? Well, let's get some sound going through here. Enable music. Is it going to loop music? Okay, good. All right, there it is. Oh no, this is. By the way, if anyone wants to know where I am, I know this is gonna like break your mind, but I am still just in the magenta hellscape that is, Nomer, and I've just chroma keyed out all of the magenta. Don't worry about how I did it. All right, when this music gets boring or too annoying, just let me know, and I'll turn it down. All right. So, thank you everyone for joining, by the way. I see Akalix was in here clarifying some stuff. Thank you. Eisenstahl says, not sure if I like them changing the current gold farms, but that's a personal gripe. Yeah, it's, you know, it's just gonna be one of those things, you know. There's gonna be no easy answer. This seems like a pretty aggressive approach, though. I will say this is aggressive way to combat inflation, combat high prices. We'll see what happens. I'll be watching the market. Don't worry about that. I'll definitely be watching. Blade said they whispered me in game. Oh, okay, great. So I have confirmation. Thank you very much, Blader. So the cleaning cloth can now be learned by everybody, and it will actually show up in in your survival tab. I don't think Vrograg actually ever learned it. Let's just take a look, see here. I'll go here, survival. Nope, I never learned it, but it should be here in your survival area. before it was only in poison crafting, so just a heads up there. Thank you, Blader, for looking into that. Let's see here. I realized I didn't have anything else up on my... like, literally, this is just the Scuffed news, so I hope everyone enjoyed the Scuffed news. I don't have... I thought oh, I do have... Okay, there it is. All right. Okay. I'm glad. Thank you, Blader. It takes me a lot less time to do the Scuffed news. I feel like the product isn't as good, honestly, but it is what it is. So, wow. Just clapping for consumes lasting through death. Did you see how long that list was? That list was ridiculous. That's like every conceivable consume. There might be some they forgot. I don't think I saw the Jujus in there. But Jujus really don't need price fixing right now. They're actually doing pretty well. Yeah, thank you, Riddle. So I do want to say, I was super anxious in the middle of the week last week, and I'm like, I just need a break from the production schedule. So that's why I didn't want to do a normal news. But I was talking to Akalix. I was also talking to friend of the show, Dan from the radio, about maybe some upcoming projects we might be working on. And Akalix just hit me with a left and with a right with all the news, all this juicy news, and I'm like, I can't resist. I literally can't resist. Like, what do I do about that? And then I realized, I'm like, okay, well, let's just try it live, and that's how we ended up doing this. Okay, so Juju's intended, not included. So, Akalix, are you saying that the Jujus are meant to not be included, or Jujus were intended, but they weren't, like, mountain berries? Okay, but you see, I think the items they're working on are making persistent through death are the ones that have been super expensive. So that's why you see the night fin. Because if we look, excuse me. Here's my little auction house boy. So if you look over here, this probably will be cursed for you. I'm sorry, everyone. But I'm just looking up quickly. Raw night fin. So I'm looking at prices that are... The cheapest buyout right now is 1 gold 15. That's pretty expensive for something that lasts, what, 10 minutes? And it has the best MP5. So that is something. Whereas, like, oh, I don't want... Goblin kind of looks weird just hanging out there. Go away. All right. Intentionally not included. Okay. Food persisting would be weird, but potion makes sense. Yeah, exactly. Firewater and Dream Tonic is also not mentioned. Okay, but so Firewater isn't that hard. I could do like another quick price comparison here. So we look at winter, fall, Firewater. That's going for a gold 9. However, here's something to think about. The Winterfall Firewater gives 35 melee attack power, but if the Jujus are intended, then perhaps there might be a world where you'd rather get the attack power Juju if it's supposed to start lasting through death. That's a theory for now. It's no matter what, this is going to be huge for the markets. This is going to change a lot of stuff. Oh, hello, Rafix. I'm glad you had fun on the safari. Oh, you know what? Oh crap! You know what? I didn't even finish my. I did have some stuff I wanted. We will get back to Q&A. Think of some questions. I did have a couple things. Hold on. There it is. The last stream event we had, which, okay, so, oh, why aren't you... Okay, I'll make that a little bigger. Woo! That's artwork done by Riddle Lightning, by the way. That little cutesy drawing. Big fan of that. So what that is, if in case you missed it, you can still view it. But myself and 19 other bold companions wandered into Zul'Gurub and explored the heck out of it. Like, we went top to bottom. No mob was left unkilled. In fact, we spent so long in there was actually respawns, so not everything was killed. But we saw some pretty cool stuff. We really genuinely did. This is just one screenshot I took from the actual VOD. This is from within the temple, like underneath the Hakar pyramid, which you can go inside. I heard about it. There's like weird NPCs you only see here, and there's packs where you have to do 2 berserkers at once. It was really cool. We had a great time, and I also wanted to add, his name should be here, right? This exploration of ZG encouraged a friend of the program, Mark Antius, who you might remember from exploring Rumbatol fame. There's ways you can get into what's called the old world of ZG. You can ask around in the Explorers channel for more details if you're curious. But yeah, you can go into the old world of ZG, and there's like a whole different. It's not completely different, but there's different things in there. And he had sent me some really cool screenshots of that stuff. So I just want to give those people a shout out. That was really fun. I had a good time, and those were all the slides I had. I promise. Ricky Kings, what is the name of your guild? I'm in. Actually, I don't often do this. Hold on. Can I click myself? Oh, it doesn't show. Oh yeah, I don't show my own name. Here, see, I'm in. That's not very helpful. I'm in Blackwing Guard. I'm in Blackwing Guard. And I can't invite you right now because I'm streaming, but someone in my guild can definitely invite you if you're ever interested. We are a very inclusive and friendly guild, and if it's the right spot for you, then come on by. Tank is going to be yelling. No, Tank isn't going to yell at me. I didn't do anything wrong. I fixed the angle, Lax. Okay, listen. I said this would be Scuffed news. Also, I can see about maybe if anyone else has any questions. I could see maybe if Akalix is actually still in my Discord. Hold on. Is Akalix still there? Akalix? No, Akalix. Shockwarden's in here. Shock, what the heck are you doing in here? Hold on. Hold on. I have to turn you on. Alright. I'm gonna turn off that. By the way, Shock, people can hear you now.
Don't mind me. Just getting my news 3 seconds before the stream does. That's all.
Shock just needs the news that much quicker. Yes, ZG and Emerald Sanctum is out on Telebim. I think they have a little bit longer to wait till BWL. Yeah, Akalix, if you want to jump in, that's fine. Also, if anyone has any questions... Hold on. I think I got the thing. See? I still have the graphic for Akalix.
And I have the Akalix for Akalix.
Hey! Hello, Akalix. Welcome to the first version of the live news show. Wait, hold on. Before people actually ask you like real questions that they're actually concerned about, like what do you think of the news program? Like, was it okay?
Yeah.
All right, good.
Honestly, I thought it was pretty good. Nothing has exploded yet.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm staring at a rich thorium vein. This is really sad. This is my herb.
Oh no. Thank you, Riddle. John Sarkis says, hide Marcantius. He looked like a mage in ZG. I mean, He was only up for a little bit. So I want to know. So the Jujus, those weren't on the list, and that wasn't by design. That was just an oversight, or that's in the future kind of thing.
That is by design. The Jujus are not having the same problems other consumes are as much, and are intentionally not included in that list.
Okay.
We do not intend to add them.
So, how hard was it to get this to happen? Was it a feat of WoW engineering, or was this like a one of the developers just did a bunch of code and it all worked and it took like an afternoon kind of thing? Can you characterize
It did
that?
require a little bit of new code just to categorize them correctly to where they would be happening in the Rage and Dungeons, but not in the open world, that sort of thing. Another big factor was we didn't want it to be, okay, now the tax to participate in like Blood Ring or in Battlegrounds, any of that. We didn't want that to have a 20 gold tax just to play. So we're having it so that those are not included. So consumes are not just going to become permanently meta in those. Like there will always be people who will consume in there and are willing to spend the gold and then die. But I don't want to see it where it becomes not just common but almost a requirement to win that people use consumes in battlegrounds and in battlegrounds and arenas. So
Okay, so this was clearly a move to lessen the demand on certain consumables. Now, I'd like to ask, and I don't know if how much you can elucidate about this, but what was the team's metrics like? What was the decision-making process like to determine which consumables were used and which were not?
So the main way that we determined what we wanted to include and what we didn't was a lot of the so basically the large majority of the affected consumables are all the same type, where they are the alchemy, like endgame alchemy raid consumes. Whereas stuff like Jujus, that sort of stuff, which they are not under that same banner, we're not focused on those because they're in their own sort of ecosystem. And in theory, could they go up in price because people are going to be less concerned about having to buy these now? In theory, yes, but it won't be by a lot. I don't expect there to be big problems there, and if there are, then we'll address those. But the main reason we stuck to the ones that we have is because we wanted to sort of... The big problem is people are sitting on herbs all day. People are waiting, spending all their time to get these herbs to make these consumables and all that sort of jazz, where they are the big pain point and where people are spending upwards of hundreds and hundreds of gold in one raid, which is just not sustainable at all. And I didn't say it directly in the announcement, but it's something that I'm very aware of. That will lead to RMT. Even in people who would otherwise be good rule following perfect players. If you're just a random dad who raids on the weekends because that's your one time that you have off from your family, off from work, all that. You have your 1-2 nights a week that you can sort of spend to yourself on WoW, and that's what you do is raid with your guild, and that's your social time. You don't have the time to go out and spend hours every single week to be farming gold, right? You don't have the sort of time that someone who's like just like able to be on that much does. Sorry, my words are fumbling a little there, but
That's okay.
so they'd be a lot more tempted to, well, I normally wouldn't want to buy gold, but I still want to have my fun time here with my friends. I still want to do my thing, and I can't do this without the consumes. So basically, they would be more likely to RMT. And I haven't observed like a measurable increase in RMT directly tied to this, but it's something that was on my mind of that is a risk that if this doesn't get addressed could start becoming a reality, because we have lost some players over this. It's something where people have given up on being able to raid for some time because, well, they can't afford it and they don't have the time to spend farming gold. So hopefully with these, that'll be addressed a little bit, that'll be eased a bit to where, okay, I don't have the time to farm gold for hours every week, but I can get on for 30 minutes and go fish for a few minutes, or I can go do this, or I can do that, however people earn gold, whether that is through their profession, through farming, through whatever.
So I did want to ask, because I think the two things are related, and I'm seeing some people ask about it. Could you tell me a little bit about how the team found out about this phenomenon of tithe DKP, what the effects are, any numbers or even anecdotal stories you might have about that? Because I think to a lot of the viewers here, it's a new thing, or at least the concept might not be new, but it seems like it's much more organized, and it's certainly something that is unusual to most.
So there were only a very small number of groups doing this, though I have been reported, I have just recently received like a report about another group doing it that I'm going to need to investigate. Oh, another rich thorium vein. I wish I was on my miner right now. I'm farming herbs as we speak. But I will be looking into that one. Otherwise, there's only a couple groups that were doing it, and I got tipped off to it and looked into it, had someone else who was looking into it with me as well. And sort of anybody who was participating in it is getting a 14-day vacation, while people who are organizing or hosting it are getting permanent suspensions. And that's because it's not vague in our rules. It's not something where it's really up for interpretation. It's pretty clear. GDKP raids, where groups auction bind on pickup or bind on equip items for gold, real money, or, emphasis here, similar in-game currencies, parentheses, including valuable items, may not be created, promoted, or attended.
Okay.
If that line wasn't there, I would be willing to be a lot more lenient with it and say, okay, well, maybe they didn't know. But that one is very clear. That is not one that you can quite mistake for, well, I didn't know that giving my high valuable consumes in exchange for loot was bad. No, it's very clearly written there. So the ban wave is, and I'm not going to give numbers on it, is with the intent of people should know and realize this is not allowed. And if it continues to happen when people get unbanned, well, then longer bans will happen. Similar to how RMT bans work. The first time you offend with RMT, if you're buying gold, you get a 14-day ban and you get all of your gold wiped. Not just the gold you bought, all of it. Then, if you offend again, which is sub 1% reoffense rate, which we do track people on that. That's one thing that a lot of people will say is, oh, how do you know they're not just going to do it again? Because we look. We just straight up check. Because we know who you are if we punished you, obviously. So we can just check again. So the reoffense rate is very low there, but when it happens, then if you reoffend, you get a permanent ban. So it'll be the same thing there. Answer a question in the chat real quickly.
Yeah, Matt has a good question.
The consumes will persist upon death. So that doesn't matter if you get resurrected or if you walk back as a ghost. They will persist through death, similar to how a Titanics work.
But what if you
Or
drop
a
raid?
Titans, I mean, if you drop raid, I believe it is based on you being in an instance that is classified as a dungeon or raid.
The whether or not this actually works as intended, of course, spaghetti code and all that, but I'm understanding the design implementation is such that if you're in a dungeon or a raid, when you die, the debuff will not be removed. But if you are,
I believe so.
Am I catching that?
I believe that is how the implementation is working.
Okay.
I could be slightly wrong. I believe that is how it is designed and how it is meant to work.
So, obviously, there's going to be a lot of new market dynamics with what's going on right now, and there's going to have to be a lot of observation about what all these things will mean in the future, of course. But I do still see some people asking. I saw Balake asking about herbs that are still going to be in demand, like Ice Cap and Grom's Blood, as well as some other people asking about the not technically a bot, but very bot-like behavior where people AFK farm. I'd like to know, are there still going to be future market analyses done?
We're not done.
Okay.
So to be pretty clear on that, this is the second step. Obviously, with the first one being the previous PvP and economy update, which does still have a little bit working on it in progress. It is not done entirely yet. You can look at it and see how far it is along and all the stuff. It is kept updated. As for the other herbs that still will be in high demand, I still think these herbs will be in demand, just less severe demand. As for the ones that aren't changing, they have limited uses there, so I think that it will be not as bad, but yes, there will be some pain points still, and we will address them as best we can if they are too bad. However, we do there's always going to be a hardest one to get. There's always going to be a most expensive one. But yes, we're gonna keep our eyes on that. We have more changes coming. There's already 2 herb changes that I know of that are in our sites, as well as 2 gold farm changes that are in our sites. Just off the top of my head, I think there are others that will also be coming there as well. As for the question about the AFK farmers, that's a really hard issue to handle, because if I send a GM to investigate if someone's a bot, and the GM says to that person, "Quick, tell me, what is 19 plus 3?" And that person replies back, 22. Well, even if they've been sitting there for the past millennia, they're not a bot. They're somebody AFK playing another game or watching Netflix or doing their homework, doing work. And that's sort of the problem, where you can't exactly ban someone for that, because they are just doing what they're just AFK farming. They are doing entirely player controlled behavior. And I think that the solution to that is not banning people for doing that, because you can't punish someone for just sitting AFK by a node. That's just not reasonable. But what we're looking at is,
you did find
how
a way
can we
through AV,
fix
though.
that system? So, how can we fix that system? Well, one of the things that we're looking at is obviously the change that I have where we're working on figuring out on the technical level how to have it done and getting it and getting the dev time put onto it, though it is not done yet, where we have the rich thorium vein nodes be moving. So that's outlined in the PvP and economy update, where the goal basically is, and this is not something that I've implemented yet. It's something where we're going to need a good amount of dev time on it, but I was given approval that yes, we're going to try to add this. Basically, how the system would work is that all rich thorium vein nodes are removed from the open world and replaced by standard thorium vein nodes. Then, all thorium nodes in the open world will have a whatever percent chance of when they respawn being a rich thorium vein. The number I used internally to explain this was 1%, but obviously that's probably not going to be the number. It's probably going to be higher than that, just because it's not like, if it's just 1%, that's going to be so few of them. But I'm not going to be able to give a public number on that. But basically, there will be a slim chance that instead of a normal thorium vein respawning, it'll be a rich thorium vein. And then people won't just be able to sit in one spot all day and hold for just, okay, is this rich thorium? Is this rich thorium? Oh, it's not. Because then they'd just be wasting their time. They're sitting there waiting for a node, and maybe once a day they're going to get the right one. So that is on the docket. But it's not something that we haven't yet. And we're looking at similar changes to that. And obviously there are other theories that are like, I just saw one in the chat, just make it people disconnect faster. Then they'll just come back to move themselves a little more often. So it's a little hard to do that sort of a solution. The idea of having pathing mobs be there is very much something that is going to be in consideration for other types of nodes, like if it's a spot that people will sit and wait for a Black Lotus. Okay. Elite Patrol kills you. So yeah, generally the goal is going to be, we're going to keep doing changes to all these different things and alleviating these pressure points, but we don't want to punish human players for human but sucky behavior. Like, yeah, it kind of sucks to have someone sitting at a node for a day, but it's not something that we can punish them for, because how do we tell someone that, oh, you've been doing this the whole time without a GM watching them the whole time? Because they can just say, oh, I was farming normally for the past 3 hours running around, but then I just walked away to go make myself some mac and cheese. Like, that's not something we can punish for, and that's not something we can realistically monitor, because we only have a handful of GMs on at any given time. It's not like we have 20 GMs on the entire time on standby ready. And I have our GMs monitoring other things. There have been a couple places that we've been starting to have our GMs monitor more and more. And there are going to be some new ones that I'm going to be having our GMs monitor in the near future, where certain behaviors were noticed that were not acceptable, and there was some abuse going on that I have my sights on right now as to my next sort of target for getting nuked.
I have received some reports, and these are hard to confirm because people that were giving me the reports didn't have full video evidence, and it's hard to prove when it happens, but I did get some reports of people saying that when nodes spawned in, a player would log in, and I feel like that certainly would cross a certain threshold, I think, for the team to be like, maybe take action on that. But again, it is very hard to enforce these things, and I think there's a knee-jerk reaction to be like, hey, here's an idea, like, why don't you just make the spawns happen more? But then you may end up with more of the same problem. But
Yeah.
I don't think the idea is completely unwarranted, but more nodes and more randomness is probably a good base level way to fix it. And it seems like there has been some level of base level of fixing it, as far as like, hey, there's more plague bloom because now there's some in an instanced area. It does seem like having something be instanced is generally the best way to help combat scarcity. I'm really curious how the persisting through death is going to affect things, because there's still some things that require high amounts of certain herbs. I'm thinking specifically still Flask of the Titan still requires a lot of Grom's blood. Granted, Wisdom isn't the biggest raider consume, but Flask of Wisdom I think requires some Ice Cap. Mana potions do, and Greater Frost Protection potions do as well. And those are things that are technically instants, but in AV, and now there's a fix in AV to prevent, real AFKers in AV, but I still see those two as maybe being a future problem. But of course, you said the team's going to continue monitoring it, so like that's good to hear. And I think with changes this drastic, I think monitoring and seeing what happens is probably the right call, because we don't know what's going to be effective, right? So, or how effective it's going to be, or how drastic the changes are going to be. So I think these are aggressive, but also at the same time, I'm sure everyone could say, hey, this isn't enough. This isn't going to do the thing. At the end of the day, a base vanilla server is meant for X number of raiders. We're over that number. And so, now we're in the situation we're in. So it's been interesting to watch the team develop new strategies and ideas for it. I'm hopeful that there's some alleviation. I actually, if chat wants to give me a chance, I can go. I have access to something called Consume Snitch, which is something used in guilds. It's an add-on that will track the application of consumables, and it is used primarily as a way to shame others when they aren't consuming for certain combats or encounters. And this last weekend, I think I shared with you, Akalix, that I went on my elemental shaman, and it was a very expensive experience for me, because as a I guess what you call as a elemental DPS, you have to factor in the fact that you are, in a way, you are sort of compensating for some of the lack of DPS that your specific class will bring. And because of that, you have to sort of make sure you're consuming as much. But that being said, like, it was pretty expensive. Hold on, I think I have it right here. I'm just cleaning it up and taking names out because I didn't have everyone's permission to do that. I will leave my name in there. Just give me a second here. Okay, and let's see how that looks on the old stream. Oh, you guys are just looking at a bunch of bars. Might be. Okay, so this is just used as a an illustrative guide. So over here, this is the number of deaths. This column. I know the mouse is not in the right spot for you, but this oh, you do see it. Okay, this is how many times people died, and this is just the raw gold spent. Up here is a paladin tank. Paladin tanks have to consume a lot. Right underneath me is our main tank for our raids. And you can see So according to this, spent about 320-ish gold, and I died twice. So if prices stay where they're at, I think I'd still end up spending about this amount of gold, because this was over like a 3 and some change hour rate of Naxxramas. Some people obviously had to spend more if they died 11 times, stuff like that. But anyone here who has numbers that are like 3 or 4, they're going to be looking at huge savings, because they won't have to apply everything again. But also another interesting point of reference here is this is how much gold was spent. Mind you, there's some people that are like all the way down here, but an average of everyone spending 153 gold for one night of raiding, the entire guild who raided that night spending just about 6,300 gold. That's pretty high. And, it has become pretty tough for me to make sure I can still do raiding. So I'm happy for these changes. I'm more hopeful that the market adjusts. And I think, hold on. I see Balake going nuts because I showed charts off. Hold on. Yes, that's true. I should also give that disclosure, Balake. That's correct. The add-on is not perfect. It doesn't catch everything. It is good at, it can prove positives, but it cannot prove negatives. So there may be people in that chart, that's another reason why I didn't want to show off their names, who did consume just as much, maybe even more than I did. However, it didn't catch it for whatever reason. It's not perfect, just like logs. But even presupposing, Balake, that is all correct, and it did miss stuff, that means there's even more gold that was spent for that one night, which is more the thrust of my point here. Yeah, it's easily over 7K, I would say, and that's big money, coupled with the fact that, let me see. Oh, geez, Frograg went AFK. Hold on, he's still here. Might be. Let me see if I can bring it up. Okay, so under consumables, I need to get rid of this one. We were looking at this. I just lost my point. But hold on, I think I can find it again. Oh, right, so that actually wasn't what I wanted to go on. This was about gold farms. Oh, yeah, gold farms. Yeah, it was here. Okay. So the statement is, our goal is to not entirely remove prominent gold farms. There will always be a best farm. So, like, I'm excited that some of the consumables I spend a lot of gold on or time gathering won't be going away if I accidentally die. That doesn't feel good. But I'm still concerned, because if the market forces don't change, or they are still expensive but in a different way, there does stand a chance that, like, now there won't be any good gold farms, or what have you. Now, Akalix, can you talk at all about gold farming? What
I suppose what I can say on that is there are a lot of different options for making gold out there currently, right? What we want is to make this more of an MMO experience, to where you are making gold in an MMO. That means you are doing a service, doing a profession. You are adding value to something. And where that is, your service is, you are farming, you're fishing, you're slaving away in the mines, you're hitting something with a hammer to make it into a better piece of gear, you're selling bombs. Doesn't matter. Even if it's just a matter of, 20 gold and I'll tank your dungeon. That's fine. But we don't want the best method to be, I'm going to run into an instance alone for the next 10 hours and get the most gold per hour of anything. The most profitable things should, in theory, be difficult and should be encouraging MMO type behavior, not single-handedly sprinting inside. So there are a handful of solo and duo, especially farms, that are on the radar of things that are not really healthy for the game, to where we're going to see what can we do about them, how can we impact that, how can we guide people to a more healthy system. And then obviously we're not going to just completely remove gold farming and all of that entirely. That would be ridiculous. But what we're going to do is basically push gold farming into a more healthy spot to where people can do a bit of gold farming, get a little bit of gold, and that little bit of gold will go further. Because I don't want to see, like, oh, you want to get your consumes? Okay, that's 2,000 gold for consumes this week. Yeah, that'll take you 2 hours to farm. Like, that's one of the biggest pain points that retail has, is a gold is not valuable at all. If you earn 1 gold on retail, you have earned nothing. That is nothing. Things are in the hundreds of thousands to millions of gold to buy on retail. And that feels awful. Because getting a gold should feel like, nice, I just made a gold doing that. Cool. And everybody remembers, like, the feeling of making their first gold on a character and that sort of thing. That's exciting. So, unless we're trying to add platinum, gold should be significant. So, we're going to continue to try to have gold be valuable. And that means, yeah, farms are not going to be allowed to be OP. They're going to be balanced properly. And we're not going to completely kill gold farming, but we're going to make it so that things that should be implemented a certain way are implemented a certain way. So if there are, for example, certain bugs that are allowing, like, if it's a bug that's causing something to happen, basically, we're going to fix that bug. And if it is just a bad design that's allowing something else to happen, we're going to fix that bad design.
Welcome everyone. We're in the twilight hours because now the server has officially reset. I would like to also ask, because I see some people seeing this announcement and saying, oh, they've nerfed this thing. My reading of this is that in the coming weeks we will be reflecting further on how these changes impact the market. Does that mean nothing has changed with any of these gold farms so far?
We have not changed things, no.
Well, that's encouraging. It might also mean there's going to be an even bigger rush for people on the farms. I like, though, with what you, because I think you wrote this right, yeah. So you wrote, there will always be a best farm. And
yes.
And that's true. The axiom of players will always min-max the fun out of a game continues to rear its ugly head whenever I think about it too long. So, yeah, that's I think it will continue to be something. I'm trying to think, when I started raiding on Turtle WoW, it was a long time ago. So long that there were still world buffs And back then, probably the most expensive part of raiding, because materials were so cheap by comparison, especially like when it was like sub 2k. What I ended up bumping into is that the most expensive part was getting chrono booms to store my world buffs. So it's just interesting to see how far things have come. Like it's just a bizarre thing. like oh, now we're talking about like high level market economics. Sorry, I realize my desk is still up. The server's offline. I have no need for the desk now. Oh jeez. Hawaiian, I will admit, doing the news has given me a few extra grays. It's true. By the way, this is the much more informal. We're just chatting about news. If anyone wants to like watch the more formal news part, I won't be offended. You can jump to the beginning of the program. It feels a lot more like an actual Turtle WoW news with Vrograg. It's a little bit more scuffed, but we get through most of the things there. But yes, now just to update everyone, I have Akalix in the channel. We're going over some of the big changes. We have stuff like, hold on. I want to get rid of that. Oh wait, why is that still up? The desk went away. What are you? I don't understand. What are you? Oh, okay. There it is. So we were talking about consumes persisting through death. That was a big thing we were talking about. We're also talking about some of the other big changes, including something called Tithe DKP now being formally against the rules, although it always has been. It's now been named and shamed. But apparently that's more of a offshoot of GDKP and wasn't happening as frequently as some people have thought. And we're talking about, just generally market economics. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. Murrog's going to be home soon. I'd like to be done by the time Murrog gets back. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. Hadjo, I see you're very excited. Oh, Riddle, you drew me a replacement orc? I'll see if I can get him in.
If I missed any questions from anyone, please feel free to...
Yes, this could be your chance.
Yeah, throw one in the chat. So he's always summoned very late for Europe because he can only be summoned after a reset on Asterius. We're looking at changes to how Asterius works, but it's not a high priority fix currently. Right now, we are not making a habit out of like replacing guild houses and all that, but it could be something worth considering. I'd put it on the forums if you think that's a good idea. Alternative tier sets are model-wise, I believe, complete. Set-wise, primarily complete. However, they're all pending class changes too, which means 1.17.2 before those come out. Juju, Fire, Water, and Low Duration Consumes aren't changed because Juju, Fire, Water aren't under the same sort of same sort of constraints, and the Low Duration ones. What's the point of a 30-second consumable persisting through death? You're going to be dead that whole time. I've thought about adding in something for PvP mark or something like that to also help with it, but it's a very delicate balance, but not something that I hate the idea of. Open world farms are obviously, that's something, it's entirely player based whether you can do that or not, and we are not going to be adding layering or something because that just shatters the vanilla experience. A very important, in our opinion, part of the vanilla experience is being able to walk up and find someone being able to go, hey, my guildie is in Goldshire. You should be able to walk to Goldshire, go wave at them and say hi. It shouldn't be a matter of, oh, you go to Goldshire and you're like, well, I'm not in the right layer. Can someone invite me to the other layer so I can say hi to my guildie? Like, that just sucks. Unfortunately, it just sucks for vanilla experience.
Yeah, that's true. That was a way that Classic implemented their overloaded servers to essentially. But remember, they were essentially just using a jerry-rigged Cataclysm client to get that. We don't have layers specific. I mean, from a completely technical point of view, there has always been layers, but you just don't see them. Only GMs can see them, but they're not implemented in the way that you would probably be most accustomed to. For instance,
layers are not multiple of the same zone in the vanilla implementation. It's more of a sharding of the world to where the north half of this continent is loaded on one shard, so to say. But that's getting into technical stuff that I barely understand, so I don't feel too confident talking on it. But that is how the servers have always really worked, and it's not a new system, but it's the only sort of implementation there is for that. How long until 1.17.2? Great question. This year, probably sooner than later this year, but I'm not going to be able to give some sort of timeline on that right now. We had 1.17.1 pretty recently, and we have a lot of things in the works for 1.17.2, so it's not something that we're able to push out immediately. There's a lot of very big things going into there, including class changes and alt tier sets, and some other things that I can't say.
Akalix does a good deal of gaslighting me and showing me lots of stuff. But, he and I both essentially work in parallel a lot, and I can at least say without breaking any confidentiality stuff that, like, there does seem to be timetables set for things, just internal ones. You'll never get to see, they'll never see the light of day, but they are far-reaching and impactful, and it's exciting to see what's going to be coming up. I'm glad that the team is taking this time to sort of steer the ship right, because one thing I think that will matter is getting this arithmetic right about how to balance consumes, because when and if there is new content, it's going to lean heavily on and rely on these sort of pillars of a stronger, more robust economy that can handle more people. So I'm glad that this is being worked on now. Kurogamo, I know you're being tongue-in-cheek, but as a continuing effort to educate people about the press and journalism, when you work with a company or you work with some kind of an agency, you do need to build relationships with those people. You can't just walk up to them to be like, hey, give me info. I believe Riddle has made that that comic before. Maybe I'll show it to you. But you have to build relationships, and you have to have mutual respect and trust in order for them to trust you with information. And in response, you need to be respectful of that, and also keep in mind that, I'm not trying to like big dog Akalix here or something. I'm sure Akalix probably feels similarly, but if there was some real corruption, some real out-of-pocket stuff going on, I would gladly burn my sources in order to bring that to light, which is something that I hope over time I've been able to convince people of. That's completely up to you as an informed consumer of media, but that's kind of where I'm at with that. I know you're being tongue-in-cheek, but I like bringing it up anyway. Oh, hello, Lexi. I see you in chat. Gut Maze, Jack, Good to see you as well. Any server's up.
so-
Everyone's gone.
Yeah. So, to address a couple of the other things that I've seen, we could consider something like the TBC one for flasks. It'd be interesting, but that'd be something for the forums, and then I could bring that up for discussion. T4 raid is coming along very well. The actual model of the place is mostly done. However, it is still a good bit out because that is only the first stage. Team thoughts on old dead guilds selling their guild houses to newer guilds. It's 50-50 on that. It could cause some problems, but it could also be a good system. It's not something that I'm looking to do personally, but if it's something where that is what everybody wants, I'd say put it on the forums.
Yeah, I do want to add to that too. It's a little dated at this point, but I do want to mention that back in the day, like maybe 6 months ago, I did do an interview with Gior and Deacon. We did talk about that. There is a hiatus on making more guild bases, and I think the RPGM people and staff are more involved with that. Akalix isn't as hands-on with that, but probably has to know what they're up to.
I mean, I know why it's on like that. It's not a matter of the RPGMs didn't want to do it or anything.
Yeah.
It's a matter of that system was not sustainable with how big we were getting and how big we are. Unfortunately, we do not have the size to give a chunk of the open world to every single group of players that get established.
I see a super chat. Thank you, harassing old men. Sorry about butchering your name. He asked, do you keep monitoring herb supply and demand? I saved a lot of gold for Titan flask recipe, but people are camping the nodes 24/7 and I have to go to Dire Mall. I thought the recipe came off of an Uber's boss? Off of Wormthalac, or what's the last guy? I thought it dropped off of him. I'm not sure if you formatted your question there well, but if you're talking about materials, that's the different matter.
They're talking about farming materials in Dire Mall, which, yes, we have been and will still be monitoring supply, demand, prices, all of that. We're not done with our changes. This is only the first phase, or second phase, I should say. And in the thread, it links back to the PvP economy update, which was sort of the first part. Guild villages, a really cool concept. I know it's not super far into development, but I know the general plans that we had for the guild house updates. So that one, I think the new system is going to be cool, but it's nowhere near being implemented. T4 to T3 is like T3, T2, yeah.
I think it's definitely fair to say that, and there's definitely split opinions about whether should it be something for PvE use, or should it be something just strictly for RP, is like another whole can of worms that I know, at least when I last talked about it, was sort of a more deep issue. So that's something to think about too when you're thinking about that, because people ask about guild bases and it's like, why do you want the guild base, you know? And they were designed with RP in mind, but
Dragonovi says spoil stuff. I have a message for you and where you can shove it. Dragonovi is another member of the team.
Hi, Dragonovi.
So, what's the other one?
You can throw it in the
Somebody
garage
asked,
if you need to.
Somebody asked if we are doing anything on AFKs in Battlegrounds. Yes, we are trying to get a little more on that, and that's one of the things that I'm going to be telling our GM team as well. In their downtime between tickets, /who in those areas, go and check and just look and see if someone's AFK. And obviously, it's not a perfect system. It's really hard, actually, for GMs to be able to catch someone being AFK in a battleground, because that means that they have to be able to be in that battleground long enough to tell that somebody's AFK, and that they're AFK in a way that it's not just, oh, somebody knocked on my door, I'll be back. But in a way of, I'm moving every 20 seconds because I don't want to get kicked, but I don't want to actually play the battleground. Which, that's not something that we want to allow. That is extremely cringe and lame. If you sign up for a battleground, you should be ready to battle in the ground.
That's so brave of you to say.
Yeah. It's hard because reporting them, like, yeah, the GMs come, look, and you're sitting there and you're like, okay, they're moving. Oh, they went over there. Okay, I guess they're not okay. And then you have to go leave, go to another ticket, and then you get another ticket 10 minutes later, and it's like, this person's AFK, and they're AFK in a slightly different spot, and you're like, did they stay here? Did they do something? It's difficult, but I've been handing out a lot of deserters myself, and I'm planning on telling our GM team basically that's one of the 2 places that I'm planning on having people monitor. I'm trying to figure out who Hawaiian Snow is if they were a GM on Turtle. I do not recognize your name.
I don't think so. Hawaiian Snow sounded like they had come from other servers. I don't want to speak for you, Hawaiian, but that actually, you bring up a really good point. Encouraging people to record stuff.
Yes.
It's sort of the gold standard for GMs is like, if you can record something, just upload it to YouTube. It can't be that hard if I can do it, right? And like, just make an unlisted link and send it to interested bodies. They do look into stuff. Like, they honestly do. And when you have proof of it happening, it's a lot better than not having it. I'm going to tell you honestly, like, they can act on verifiable information a lot quicker and a lot more effectively.
The best thing I can say is get videos of anything that you, or get videos or other evidence if you can. Another thing here's your leak, Dragonovi, and this is one that you won't care about whatsoever. After a recent senior support meeting, we are going to be implementing changes in the very near future where we will be enforcing chat rules differently. Specifically, we are no longer just going to tell people /ignore if somebody harasses you in Whisper and that sort of thing, or if somebody mails you a rope and says, kill yourself. That is going to be treated as harassment. Lame leak, yeah, you're lame too. Go back to design items or something. That was the worst comeback I have had in a while.
No, you know what? Listen, Dragonovi, he wants his work highlighted, but...
He's a hater, Novi.
You know what? I think that's amazing for the community. I talked... my last episode, I chatted with a bunch of people who were doing like a ladies' night raid run, and I have to tell you, I took the extra steps to ensure that like names weren't revealed and stuff like that. And it wasn't because I was just doing my normal goody two shoes, like I'm an ethical journalist thing. Like a lot of them requested it. And it was because like they didn't want to get harassed. And the thing is that like, you can only make the game playable if you make it inviting. And if it's not inviting because people have stuff like that happen to them, they're not going to play the game. So it's a no-brainer for everyone to have behavioral stuff like that get reprimanded. And I definitely think people can, evolve, people can change. But like, as it is, Turtle Wow already has the reputation of being hyper over moderated, I guess, in certain circles. Those people don't understand how free speech works, but that's a whole nother can of worms. But I suppose if you're already going to have that reputation in certain circles, you might as well lean into it, because the worst thing that's going to happen is other people are going to find it more inviting, and like that's a good thing. Like genuinely, I think it is. So even though Dragonovi's bummed we're not talking about how he made the hammer of Herp-de-Derp, like, okay, like that's cool. But what's cooler is people being comfortable playing the game.
Yeah, so the way that we came to this change, right, is for a while it was under the theory of the internet is full of people who are just going to be trolls and dicks, so just ignore them if they are that way. And there was certain just things that we were just like, yeah, we just deal with it because that's just how it is. And over time, we talked about it a few times, and I pushed a lot for this change, and everyone has agreed with it now. There's no reason that we have to be allowing that sort of toxicity. And it's something where Turtle WoW at its core is an RP PvE server, at least on Nordinar. And on Telebeam, it's a PvP server, but that shouldn't mean that that's allowed either.
And they like
But
leaning into
especially-
RP as well.
Yeah, and I've seen some great RP over
Yeah.
there, which has been really interesting to me. But the thing is, if we want to stay true and do well by the role players that kept our server alive at its very earliest stages, we need to provide them with a comfortable environment. And seeing people get harassed for RPing is just like... If I see that, I'm just going to be so befuddled. Like, you've joined an RP server. What do you expect? But basically, the plans there is channels like Whispers and stuff like going into like an LFT group or something like that. Those it'll be moderated in. It's like, that's...
Can I ask? I understand that the rules are going to be changing, but always with discussions about rules comes the next question, which is, how will that be enforced? Is there a new, like, hiring spree going on, new volunteers, or is there just going to be different rules?
So the thing is, that's not a very hard one to change. And that's not something that I expect is going to take a ton of extra work. Basically, what it's going to be is we're working on getting... GMs already have access to a lot of chat logs, but we're working on getting some other forms of chat log access for them. But as of right now, how it's going to basically work is we're going to request a screenshot and that sort of stuff when you're reporting someone. Say if somebody whispers you and says, hey, you're a F-slur, KYS, then, okay, please send us a screenshot of this person, of the whisper that you had between you and this person. And we're going to investigate it. And obviously, if this gets to the point where somebody starts like faking screenshots and lying about it, you'll just straight up get banned for that. That's not at all cool. But on the most part, it's going to be trusted that, okay, that screenshot's going to be legitimate. But we're going to work on getting better log tools for that in the future. But as of right now, basically that's going to be how it works. And we're not going to moderate private guilds and private channels. That's still going to be the same, where if you are in your private guild and your private Discord or your private channel, we're not going to interfere with that, because that's your place to enforce your rules. If you want to be a dick, you can be a dick. But if you are leaving that area and you are going into, like, whisper someone or walk up to someone, or you're in a battleground with someone and you're calling them all sorts of horrible things, telling them to kill themselves, all sorts of stuff like that, then that's not okay. And there's no justification for that sort of thing. There's no sort of reasonable, like, explanation for it. I'm involved in, like, competitive level gaming and esports, so I see a lot of that type of toxicity.
Yeah.
And if you take a step back from the screen, there is legitimately zero justification for that sort of behavior, for that sort of language to be used towards someone else. So if you're going to be that hateful towards someone, you could do it off of our platform. It is not welcome here, and it's not something that we want to encourage, because it just makes a worse community.
Yeah,
Like-
it's true. Like, this is a game. People come here to relax and have a good time, and obviously there's a level of competitiveness to any game, and that's fine. But I feel like when there's like a certain line that it can cross, that when it does so, the game can stop being fun for some people, and
Yes.
and that's where I think it's okay for moderation to step in, you know, like, and I say that as a free speech advocate. Like, you are still responsible for the things you say, you know.
You have freedom of speech, not freedom from consequences. And like I said in the chat here, it's accepted. It's sort of accepted that you will get on an ult and flame the person. Like trash talk and harassment are two very different things. You can tell someone that they're shit at the game.
Yes.
That's fine.
I get told all the time.
Yeah, it's fine to trash talk, but it's different when you start calling someone slurs and you start telling them to kill themselves and you start telling them all this horrible stuff, and it goes from you're not just telling them, oh, you're bad at priest, I'm better than you, ha ha. It's like saying some horrible stuff about them. So it's, and obviously there's going to be some bumps on this, but there's no reason to allow that sort of behavior on the server. So we're going to be intervening at this and I'm going to be announcing this change more probably later this week, with some more details on it. But basically, it's not just going to be the answer of like, oh, just ignore it, because there's no real reason for that. And yes, we're not going to enforce this in private communities. So if it's like just your guild, like if it's just your guild, you like telling each other to kill yourself. Oh, kill yourself. Oh, kill yourself. Like, okay, sure. Like, whatever. That's your guild culture. That's not for me, but that's fine. Mm-hmm. The only time we're going to get involved in that is if it's like criminal. Like if your air quotes guild culture is talking about children sexually or doxing people and like saying, hey, this person's IP address is 127.0.0.0.1. Like, okay, that's a problem, but that's because that's a crime.
Yes, and that's an important distinguishing thing to note. And like, I've been made privy of certain cases where that did need to happen and it did get risen to that level, and like, it doesn't happen often, but it can happen. And it is good to know that in general, the Turtle WoW team does want to respect people and want them to feel okay playing in the game world they've created. And like, I'm also happy in a way that the rule is that what happens in game is what the team will generally be sticking to, because I think when people play the game, they're all agreeing to share the world. But when you're in a certain Discord or you're in like a special place that's away from that, that's something that the Turtle team isn't generally going to have a lot of control over, and probably would be overstepping their bounds to enforce unless it was really out of pocket. So I'm glad to hear that.
I'm not trying to get involved in somebody's like interpersonal drama on Discord unless it's to the point where it is a very big problem. Like, if it's to the point where like it's the example I always go to, and this is obviously not always going to be the case, but it's just the easiest example to say, is if someone's talking, if this person is like going on and on in their guild Discord about like, oh yeah, so I'm gonna go groom a child after this, and then it's like, okay, maybe I'm going to nuke you from orbit because that's horrible.
Yeah.
But if it's just like you and your guildies in your internal channel, like sharing really offensive memes and calling each other horrible things, like, you know what? That's not my business. That's your guys' stuff. You're doing it in your private areas. You're not like attacking other people with it or forcing it on other people. So it's chill. The general idea is be nice to other people and then be however you want in your own behind closed doors. It's the sort of idea of do what you want in your own home, but in public, don't be a nuisance.
I see Lucas Tesseria asks, why do devs dislike dungeon farming and prefer world farming? The more players in world farming make it worse for each other because of competition, and this is not a PvP realm to cut competition. I can probably answer the question myself, Akalix, but I'm sure you'd like to say something.
The first thing I'd like to say is that Poliwow is entirely correct. The second thing that I'd like to say is, so the reason that we want to encourage open world farming and gameplay is because dungeon farming encourages, like, so dungeon farming is not something that we want to kill entirely, right? But we don't want it to be the most optimal method. We don't want it to be the best way to make money in the game is by running to a certain part of a dungeon, jumping into a certain area there, killing everything, resetting, and doing it again. And just spamming that, because that's a single player experience, right? What we do like is encouraging more dynamic encounters in the world and making it so that it's more rewarding to do things that will make you end up encountering other players. But stuff like, I don't know, the best way to put it is stuff like, yeah, the Plague Bloom in Stratholme, like you mentioned, that's something that we want to encourage people to do dungeons to get money from. Whereas we don't want to encourage, like, oh, there's this specific point where you can do this to go sneak through here and get to this spot, reset mobs here, and then you can access this chest and now reset and do it again 10 times a day. Like, that's snoozer.
I mean,
and it's not a good MMO experience.
There's definitely been a lot of discussion about this. A lot of it started when they changed how the croc farming worked and essentially edged out all the mages because they have a charge that only paladins can survive. And that started a good discourse. And what I heard from a lot of the community, there's a lot of like, oh, we need this gold farm, or we don't need this gold farm, or ultimately, I think one of the best observations I had from listening to and participating in that discourse was the best thing to have in a social multiplayer game is the best rewards being available for those who participate in multiplayer content. And I think the team has attempted to do that by making the crocs the way they are. Of course, that didn't work out the way I think it was purely implemented. But I understand that, at least in my personal opinion, and in some of those I had that discourse with, it is probably the best situation to have the best gold farms be things that require multiple people to do. Not to say there isn't a space for solo gameplay, but in general, it shouldn't be stronger than what someone can do with others. I think that's sort of like the overarching goal, and it's very hard to do because this game client is held together with duct tape and black magic. So, it is what it is.
So the idea is that we want people to be interacting more in the world and interacting more with, like, each other. But if you are that's the thing in chat, is it feels like it's punishing players who know their class abilities well enough to farm raid trash solo. You shouldn't be able to farm raid content on your own. Raid content is designed for 10, 20, 30, 40 people to do. It shouldn't be something where it is a matter of one person can go in there and make a ton of gold off of it. And the loot in there is balanced around it being for an entire raid. So it shouldn't be something where you can just solo farm it as one player, because it's designed to be a 20 or 40 man encounter, not just a one guy runs in and runs around for like a year.
I do see guildmate of mine, Vicare, is in chat asking, I think this mirrors a little bit of what Balake was saying. about the herbs pots missed by today. Grom's Blood, Ice Cap, and Black Lotus base consumables will skyrocket. I think there's some very early market speculation going on, which is usually what you see when something this drastic happens. But I do want to say that we did talk about this a little bit, and it sounds like it's going to be something the team's going to monitor and check in on. But like the immediate knee-jerk thing is usually not the thing you want to react to from a market point of view. If the team reacted to how high arcane crystals got during the attunement craze for Emerald Sanctum, then there would be like a billion more RTVs available. So I think my understanding is that it's going to be a little bit of a wait and see. Grom's Blood can still be farmed somewhat. Black Lotus is a weird one because that should just be a flat 2% chance off of a high level herb, and those can be farmed in instances. Ice Cap is a difficult one because it naturally only grows in one zone and then instanced in another zone that is now discouraged from being herb farmed because of AFKing, but I digress. I think of those, Grom's Blood could be the biggest pain point. I was showing off previously. This is the historical graph of this goes back. Hold on, is that actually showing? I just went away from Streamlabs. Let me see here. So this is all the way from June 1st, all the way up to today, pretty much. Not the last couple hours, but you can see that we are at a historically high price point, and if I'm sure there's going to be some early speculation about Grom's Blood, there's going to be a rush on it, but probably in the next day or so we'll probably have a better feel about how the market's going to be for Grom's Blood. But I mean, pretty much it just seems like a wait and see. Hopefully the team being willing to act aggressively means that they'll also be able to check themselves if there's any unforeseen errors. That's pretty much what Akalix has been saying. I mean, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that.
I don't really have too much to add on it. It's just a matter of the main thing that people need to keep in mind is the fact that we are not done with our changes, right? So
yeah,
anything that is in now, that does not mean that that is the final version of what's going to be in and what's going to be done. The server has been around for over 5 years, so there's going to be more changes coming. And it's not going to die from us taking an extra day or two to do one or two other things.
It should be interesting to see how everything shakes out with consumes persisting. I'm certainly interested anyway. I'm sure plenty of people that have raids coming up this week are looking forward to what's going to happen with prices. I'm also curious if this new chilling effect on Tithe DKP is going to have any big effects on the market. This is one of the few times that I'm super glad that I literally just have a script that runs and just pulls all the data. It's amazing, and I can't wait to fully utilize it in the this upcoming week. I'll see if I can actually get live market data, because the server should be back up, so it should be scannable. Is there any other questions? We do have Akalix online, so if anyone has any questions, he was about to spoil something, but.
May I jump in here with a question?
Oh my goodness, Shockwarden's here. I forgot. I'm sorry, Shock. I should never forget about you.
Of course.
Has there been any recent discussion about raid scaling changes for higher end, larger raids?
There have been a really recent discussions on it. I know that in Karazhan 40 and in Grim Batol, we do not have plans to have there be raid scaling there. And I mean, both of those raids are very much going to be designed to be hard, like, they're going to be gut checks for some raid groups, because some people are very used to farming knacks and not having to think too much about what they're doing. But in those, you're going to get gear checked, you're going to get awareness checked, you're going to get like reaction checked. You're going to have to do the mechanics, you're going to have to use the proper consumes and all of that good stuff. It's not intended to be loot pinatas. It's going to be, especially tier 4, it's going to be difficult, and there are going to be people who just aren't able to do it. And I don't expect there to be tons and tons of groups who are doing it, because you can already see by the time you're getting to Naxxramas, the amount of guilds that are able to clear it starts tapering off. It's going to taper off more at the top end, because it's not going to be easy.
So, so is the intention then with places that don't do scaling currently, which is just Emerald Sanctum? I think there's been some pressure from people to be like, hey, we want to do this content, but we can't do it with 40. Is that stance because it's a design difficulty, or is it like a, we want this to be this way for a while and we'll review it? Obviously, when content first comes out, I actually understand a lot more that, like, hey, this is the difficulty we want. We don't want to obviate it. We want people to experience it the way it was designed. I don't know if you have much to say about that, since you probably wouldn't be the one designing it. So,
I know some on it.
Is there like an ethos or like an ethic that the team's aiming for?
I know that on the design side of things, they really wanted all of their custom stuff to be 40-man locked.
Right.
But I also know that there is some pressure from players to, especially with Emerald Sanctum, because not every class has something that they need from there. There is some pressure to knock it down to be scaled. Which I personally would be in agreement with, because I'm personally someone who likes raid scaling. But it's something that not everybody agrees on, so it would be a matter of, that'd be something good for the forums that then you can throw out there and say, look, we're asking for it, why isn't it happening? As for something I saw as why I was hoping for another AQ40 tier raid, why make content for only the top 10%? We are going to do that eventually. Obviously, we're planning on doing tier 3.5 and tier 4 currently, but we're probably going to do tier 3 and tier 2 and tier 1 raids in the future. We've already added in a smaller raid at tier 2 with Emerald Sanctum, and a smaller raid at tier 0 with Karazhan 20. But we're looking to do more in the future. It's just those ones are not yet announced. But we do have other raids in the plans. They're not out yet, they're not announced yet, but there's obviously, like, we've mentioned before, like, that we want to do something Scarlet related, we want to do something Outlands related, we want to do something like Silver Moon related, all that sort of stuff. And those areas, some of them, we mentioned Oldham at one point, we mentioned like a couple other things. We've mentioned a lot of things over time where it's stuff that we want to get to eventually, but it's just a matter of it takes time to dev things, so it's later down the path once we're going to get there.
Can I jump in with a follow-up question on the
Go for
point
it.
you made about additional raids? Are you, if you envision later on when all of these new raids are developed and out and people are enjoying them, will all raids be open concurrently all of the time, including the the original vanilla raids as well as the custom ones? Or are you considering putting any of them on a rotating availability schedule?
That's not something that's really been had. That hasn't really had much thought and discussion put into it yet that I know of. I can see an argument for having it be a schedule of this week we have this raid open, this week we have that raid open, just because eventually there'll be too many raids to where it's sort of the idea of the content bloat could become too much to where people can't do everything in one week. But there's also the argument of, okay, then people will have to choose. You could do that one or you could do that one. Based on just how much time you have to put in the game. It's something where there hasn't been too much done on that yet because it's so far into the future that I wouldn't be too worried about it as of now. It'll be probably decided mostly based on what the player base is like at that point and what, like, everything like that is.
Well, Haranselman, problem with ES is that there's so much good gear, maybe not all of classes, but since it's only 2 bosses and requires so many players, it's very difficult to get loot within weekly reset bases. I mean, I think it's been pretty clear that the team doesn't want their custom creations to be loot pinatas.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm not. I would agree that the artificially, by comparison, mind you, the artificial difficulty of, hey, this needs a full 40 does seem a bit much. However, I definitely defend and I mean, you could even argue that it's an artistic creation and they want people to enjoy it a certain way. It's difficult to get 40 for some guilds, and the bait, so to say, the gear may not be the best for everyone. But those things can be smoothed out, and I would say overall, considering the fact what the difficulty of adding a raid that's essentially like tier 2 in the way that like Onyxia is like tier 2 is it's a weird and difficult thing to design anyway. So I don't think there's going to be a great way of making everyone happy because it's just an awkward spot. Now, for instance, do you think Onyxia would be cleared as much as she is if she required 40 man? And that's an open question. Anyone who's in the Discord, anyone in chat could answer that. I bet you the answer would be probably not as much. And Onyxia has really good gear, has some tier 2, has some really great weapons, has even like Shard of the Scale, things like that, things that hunters need. It's essential that some classes do it, but people can do it because they're scaling. But it's also something that's very difficult to design around. So, I mean, I don't think I'm personally opinionated about it one way or another. I say that as I main an elemental shaman. I got those sweet boots. I got those sweet bracers. I want the cool green shield just because it looks cool. But, it's not in a situation where it's going to prevent people from doing content if you can't do Emerald Sanctum. And I think because of that, I think there can be more leeway granted.
I see in the chat, if you don't want to overflow the server with Ixie's content, why not focus on making 2 to 3 dungeons for the leveling part of the game? I would like to introduce you to Crescent Grove and to Gilneas City. But jokes aside,
Town?
We are planning on adding more dungeons to the game. Not just those 2 custom leveling dungeons. We have a couple already, but we're planning on adding more as well. The main reason that we aren't focusing more Hateforge is barely leveling. That's a stretch. But the main reason we're not focusing more on leveling dungeons is because the problem with leveling dungeons is that you do them when you're leveling and then you don't do them at 60. And 60 is where a majority of the players are at any given time, and where people are spending the most time redoing dungeons the most. Are you more likely to do Hateforge Quarry again, or Crescent Grove again? And then ask yourself that question 1 month from now. Are you more likely to do Crescent Grove or Hateforge Quarry? That's the sort of problem of, well, you're kind of stuck there of, okay, we want to do more for the leveling, but we also have to limit it. Paladins nerfed when? Class changes too. You like Molten Core? Yeah. Heroic modes, not super likely. But it's something that honestly, I'm a Zoomer, I would love Mythic Plus on Turtle. I think that would be a fun system. But I know that that's not realistic to what our server does and what our server's core can do. Will future raids be horizontal progression? Oh, shut up, Dragonovi. Will future raids be horizontal progression? Yes, I believe so. There will be some. Will Care 40 and Grim Patrol have any hard modes? I imagine probably, but
He
they
makes that
also
noise when he doesn't know.
they also are going to already be pretty hard. They are not going to be. They will be similar to how going from Blackwing Lair into Encourage is. So it's not going to be. You're already going to be getting hard stuff there. So I wouldn't be too worried about too many hard modes. But honestly, a hard mode on top of that I think would be very cool. I personally, and this is not confirming anything, this is just what I would love to see. I would love to see, for the end boss of Grim Batol, an extra hard mode on that, which has different loot table, perhaps maybe a legendary. I think that would be a very cool thing, especially if it made sure that it was hard and that a majority of people will wipe. That would be my ideal end game there. I saw somebody else say, I completely forgot what I saw there.
You made a fatal mistake there, Akalix. You brought up legendaries. Could you share if the team is happy with the fact that, at least on Northernar, I can't speak for Telebim, although it would be hilarious if they had it a bunch, the very seldomly dropping enchanting recipe required for the Scythe of Elune quest. There's an enchanting recipe that, if I'm correct, I think has a week-long cooldown, and it is a material that is needed for a not yet complete part of the Scythe of Elune. My understanding is that there are less than 5, I believe, players that currently have gotten the enchant since Emerald Sanctum's release. I don't have the numbers on how many times Emerald Sanctum has been cleared. However, the recipe can drop on easy or hard mode. And since then, is only 4 people having the recipe learned? Is that what the team wants?
I don't know.
Dragonovi, if you're hiding in here, I would love to hear your opinion on that. It's
I think you should give the same answer that I did, Dragonovi. I think that'd be the funniest possible answer.
Har. I mean, it is certainly a way of doing a legendary. Pretty bizarre. I don't have an accurate count, but I do believe there's at least dozens and dozens of people that have the Scythe of Elune drop from Karazhan, but the enchanting recipe seems to be quite difficult to come upon, as well as the portal book to Theramore and the portal book to Stonard. Those have been two lingering things. I don't know if there's going to be any adjustments to those, but I am curious personally, as someone who's done that content a good bit, and have not seen hide nor hair of those drops.
Just look harder.
I will inform my enchanting, this is double entendre, enchanting wife, who's been looking for the recipe for some time, and with a good amount of consternation, as well as my mage compatriots who curse at the heavens whenever they don't get that book. That is true. That is, I have to be biased in that I live next to someone who does sway me. I'm sorry.
Does anyone else have any sort of quick questions for me? I will have to hop out here in not too long.
Yes. And
I
Murad's been home for a
unfortunately
little
have
bit, so.
something else that needs to abduct me for the night.
Well, I just wanted to say, Akalix, thank you for jumping in, helping to explain some more of the announcements you made. Thank you for making those announcements and being willing to explain them some more. To the audience in general, thank you very much for watching this experimental Turtle Wow news, where we start at the top with all the news and then we chat about it. Also, thank you, Shock, for lurking, and just your presence just is enough sometimes. Thank you for that.
I don't know what that means, but if you're happy, then I'm happy.
Great, I am happy. Yeah, so I guess until we all meet again, I'll try doing this again. I actually had a good amount of fun with this, and it was a lot less time to set up. So we'll see next week.
I will dip in a moment. Let me rapid fire these questions. Rogue
Okay.
Tank is effectively nerfed. Will we be able to dodge bosses again when alone? Yes, probably. That's probably something that should get changed. Purified Ashbringer, whenever we do a Scarlet Dungeon, are there achievements in the future? Mount achievements, go. I would love to see an achievement system implemented. I don't know of any sort of plan or timeline on that, but I think it'd be a very fun one. What do you think about making items RPers to allow them into RP in areas that are hostile? I don't know too much about it, but maybe. Suggest on the forums. Cow level, there is no cow level. 2 or 3 player dungeons, I mean, that could be kind of cool. Say something cryptic. We have plans for 1.17.2, 1.18.0, 1.18.2, and the next big update after that. And there's a reason that I separated my phrases there.
I hope you're all happy with yourself. Me and Akalix say a bunch of out-of-pocket things. All right, we'll wrap up there. Let me get. I could be back in game, but nah, it's too late. If you missed the earlier part of the program, this is a YouTube, so you can just go back and watch the early parts. Thank you once again, everyone who joined, whether in Discord or in chat. Thank you for talking and sharing your opinions and thoughts on this wonderful Turtle WoW community. I would just like to... I'll sign off with what I normally sign off with, which is to remind everyone to always have fun with whatever you're doing, even if it's not Turtle WoW. Just make sure you're having fun. Be safe. And as always, remember, the deadliest weapon is knowledge.